Welcome to Punky's Pro Wrestling. Okay, this is the Dark Side of the Ring Traylor Big Bossman review. And it was excellent. But what I want to do first is I have a channel announcement and a little commentary. The channel announcement is that I will be having major surgery. How appropriate to talk about this surgery on a wrestling channel. And many wrestlers I've watched, male and female, have had this surgery. I am having 2 discs removed and 2-level fusion. So I'm having 2 different sets of vertebra fused. It's a huge operation. I'll be in the hospital for about 3 days. I will be missing videos on this channel, for sure. If you want to keep up, check out Punky's World. I'll be trying to update everybody over there the best I can. That's my vlog channel. It won't be until around October. That's my best guess. Because he said a couple of months. So sometime in October. And I'll let you guys know when the date gets closer. But I'm trying to let all of my channels know. And this was the last channel I had to let know. I have Kid Missing, of course, which is my flagship channel, my main channel. Where I do all my missing, unidentified, unsolved murders, all that stuff. It was my original channel. Is my original channel. And then Punky's World, my vlog channel. And then the wrestling channel. I also wanted to talk about, I guess this was an interview near the end of Hogan's life, where he talked about Roddy Piper and how much they didn't like each other when they were younger, which is true. And Roddy has talked about it openly as well. He said part of the problem was, quite frankly, I was jealous of Hogan, which I guess makes sense at the time. You know, he was very honest. And in the interview, Hogan was talking about when they got older, how they became more friendly. And Roddy talked about that as well. Hogan said he brought Roddy to his church. He didn't click with his church. Maybe he didn't. But he said he could never get Roddy to accept the Lord as his Lord and Savior. Okay, did you know Roddy at all? Roddy was a Christian. Roddy was a believer. Listen to his own interviews. So I was a little confused by that. And then he said that his text on his phone wasn't working well. You know, he'll get text 2 hours after someone texts him. Yeah, that's your provider. Your provider sucks. And with your money, you'd think you could have the best provider. If I believe that that's true. Now, I don't know whether it is or it isn't. He said that Roddy said, I'm just walking with the Lord. Just walking with the Lord. In the last message that he sent him, only he sent it to him as a voice message. Which you can do in text. You can press a button. It's a different microphone button than the one if you're dictating a text. It's a different microphone. And you can record a message and send it as a recorded text. I've personally never done. I've done it by accident, you know, and realized it was recording and then I have to, delete it. But I've never actually sent a recorded message that I can think of. Maybe I have. Dawn and I may have sent them at one time or another. Just short ones. But anyway. And he said he never would have said that when he was alive. He never would have said that when he was alive. And it didn't come in until 2 days after his passing. And Hogan's like crying or whatever. And the interviewer is getting all emotional. So he wanted you to hear it. He wanted you to hear it. And it was like, have you ever listened to Roddy? He said things like that. Not those exact words, but things similar. Way before he died. It's like, where were you on this planet, Hogan? So, yeah, I had to address that. As someone who's watched everything Roddy's ever done, I know that. He made a Christian movie. As a matter of fact, I just thought of it. The Reconciler. He made a Christian movie. He played a Christian character in Walker, Texas Ranger, for gosh sakes. Which just occurred to me. With crying prayers to the Lord. And he talked about that. And how much that meant to him. To play that character like that. He did, like I said, an entire Christian movie called The Reconciler, which I own. He loved making that Christian movie. It was something completely different for him. So for Hogan to say that absolutely blew my mind. What planet are you living on? Well, neither of you are living on this one anymore, but you know what I mean. This is my opinion, my observations, but I had to talk about that before I get into Dark Side of the Ring, which is what everyone's here for. So, this was Big Boss Man Ray Traylor. Ray came into wrestling in 1986 as Big Bubba Rogers. Actually, he started out as Ray Traylor. Dusty saw him and thought, I can do something with this. And he gave him the Big Bubba Rogers gimmick, put him in a suit, made him Jim Cornette's bodyguard, which Jim Cornette legitimately needed at the time. And his fans were absolutely nuts and believed it a little too much. So, yeah, he needed the help. And Ray was a corrections officer in Cobb County, Georgia. And at the Cobb County Jail, and the inmates called him Boss. And so, he became Big Bubba Rogers, and Jim Cornette absolutely loved him, became one of his best friends. They were friends even after he left the NWA. He still talked with Jim. And this was a very emotional show for Jim. He wasn't making, like, if the Midnight Express were given $10,000 each, he was given $5,000, and it was like, this inequity is not working. So he went to the World Wrestling Federation when his contract was up. And he had a meeting with Vince, and Vince, tell me about yourself. And, I was a corrections officer. Really? What did they call you? Boss. You're the big boss, man. And the rest is history. He feuded with Hogan. He was doing great. And eventually he turned babyface, or to a good guy. And the fans loved him. He was incredible. Uh, he had a feud with the Mountie where they had the jailhouse match, which the loser had to go to jail for the night. And of course, the Mountie lost. And Jacques Rougeau talked about being the Mountie and how Vince had this idea for him. He said, "We've got the big boss man, the American corrections officer. We need you to be the Mountie, Canadian officer." For those of you unfamiliar, Mounties, that's the nickname for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, because they used to be horseback police. I'm sure there's still a branch of the Mounties that is on horseback, but for the most part, they're not. But that's why they were the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or the Mounties, as they're known. And they are Canada's equivalent of the FBI. And because they're national police. And so Vince created this storyline, which was one of the best. I mean, Vince really did create some good stuff. Vince created some crap along the way, too. Like some of his characters. The ridiculous baseball player character, his face was painted like a baseball. Nails. The robber there. Nails the inmate. The robber. I can't remember his name. He was played by one of the members of Demolition. Duke the Dumpster Drosy. The Goon. The hockey goon. He had some definite stinkers along the way, but Vince created some amazing storylines and some amazing, well-fit characters, like the Big Boss Man. And that was the best time of theme music, too. He worked hard as the Big Boss Man and was in a lot of pain. He became addicted to somas, which is a type of muscle relaxer. That's the shortened name. And pain medication. He went to WCW and went through a revolving door of lousy gimmicks. When they brought him back to WCW, why didn't they just make him Big Bubba Rogers? None of us understood that. Those of us who came from the Big Bubba Rogers era, I was 12 in 1986, practically a teenager. Those of us who came from that era wondered why when WCW got him, they didn't make him Big Bubba Rogers again. Instead, it was a disaster. And he ended up going back to the WWE. And it was still the WWF, I guess. It was the Attitude Era. And all kinds of weird, bizarre things were going on. I hated that era. I have to be honest with you. I agree with Jim Cornette. It was a freaking disaster. They had him hooking up Big Show's dad's coffin to the truck and towing it away and stealing his dad. It's just absurdity. They had him abducting Al Snow's dog and feeding it to him. Really? Jim Cornette had to step away from the interview at one point. he was talking about when Ray passed away. It was 2 days before the first Midnight Express reunion. Ray did get clean. Him and his wife separated. He got clean. They got back together. They renewed their wedding vows. And he did well. And they were together till he passed away. He did not pass away from drugs. His entire family had passed away young from heart disease. His daughter did CPR because she had just learned CPR in health class, which I did too. Ray was universally loved by everyone because he had a heart as big as he was. And he missed out on a feud with Steve Austin because he made a big mistake. He was talking to The Undertaker about a match they were going to have later. They were going over it. He lost track of time. And he never went out to the ring to hit Steve Austin with a chair. At one point, Vince Russo looks at him and says, "Bro, you're supposed to be out there." And he goes, so, yeah, he didn't get that feud. The doctor that served him up his meds was Dr. Aston, the same doctor that kept all the wrestlers well medicated, including Chris Benoit. So, his wife and oldest daughter were a big part of the show. They have all of his old wrestling stuff. His daughter works in counseling. She works in behavioral health. Ray was very close to Kurt Hennig. And when Kurt Hennig passed away, Ray was devastated. Now, I'm going to tell you who was involved in the episode. Nick Patrick, who was a referee who later had his own storyline as a heel NWO referee. Was part of it. In my personal opinion, he didn't add much. He talked about wrestlers using meds. He didn't add much as far as Ray goes, in my opinion. They could have just left him out. Al Snow was there, Jerry Briscoe, his daughter, his wife, Jim Cornette. And of course, the Mountie talked about the Mountie, feud. Jacques Rougeau. He even wore his Mountie costume, which I thought was neat. Overall, once again, excellent. Like I said, I would have preferred if they just skipped Nick Patrick because he didn't bring anything to the table as far as Ray Traylor goes, in my opinion. So, that was the only part I think they could have just edited right out. Talk to his daughter more, his wife said making that kind of money didn't change Ray. We had a nice house on a nice street, but we didn't fit in with the other people on that street, because they didn't act uppity and rich. They just weren't that type of people. He was a simple, humble Southern man. And adored his family, and he got into wrestling because he made more in one night in wrestling than he made in an entire year as a corrections officer, which is a shame. Because you're putting your life on the line as a corrections officer. You'd think that they would make decent money. He was not making decent money. If you can make in one match what you make in a year as a corrections officer, there's something wrong. I'm sorry. That is a dangerous job. Don't get me wrong, I don't think very many of the inmates would have messed with him at 6.5 feet tall, 300 pounds. But still, it's a dangerous job. Because if an inmate creates a weapon, a sharp weapon, or sneaks in a weapon that fires objects made of lead, you have to be very careful on YouTube. It won't matter how big you are. Then the bigger they are, the truly harder they will fall. So I do think that he deserved way more pay in that job. I think it's disgusting they get paid that little. It was like, I think he made $12,000 in a match when he first started in WWE. And that was what he made in a year? In 1988 even? No, that's unacceptable. So, but he was a wonderful man. And I'm glad they did it. Someone said recently, why are they doing Dark Side of the Ring on a man nobody ever had a bad word to say about? Well, that's not what it's about. Most of these people that they do these Dark Side of the Rings on, people didn't hate them. People weren't burying them. Has this person ever sat down and watched a Dark Side of the Ring? This is classic Dark Side of the Ring. Only in this case, it was a redemption story, and then his heart killed him. So, yeah. So, like I said, it was one of the best. And to that person who commented, watch it, because that is what Dark Side of the Ring is about. It's about the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not about burying people. It's not about people being hated by everyone. Most of the people that they have done episodes on have been liked. I mean, obviously Tony Helm is a different story. Didn't have too many redeeming qualities for anybody to like, so yeah, it's one of those things. So yeah. Well, God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you next time. Let's look real quick and see what next week's is. The Renegade. The Renegade. Which was the guy they tried to be an ultimate warrior type. And he ended up ending his own life. So, that'll be sad. It'll be interesting. So, yeah. Bye, guys. I will see you next week. Hopefully, next Wednesday. And we'll talk about the Renegade. God bless you. Please consider subscribing. Hype if you can on this channel. I'm not sure if you have to have a certain number of subscribers to have a hype button. I'm not sure how that works. So, thank you so much. Like I said, God bless you, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.